Hi, good morning, and it's a privilege. I like to take notes sometimes in your notebooks, but if you'd like to take out of the scripture, in Genesis 12, the Abrahamic promises given by the Lord. Now, the Lord had said to Abraham, Genesis 12, get out of your country and from your family, cross-cultural, and from your father's house, to a land that I will show you, and I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great. Talking about building of trademarks and things too there. And you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless those and curse those who curse you. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. And as we talk about BAM this morning, the focus will be on one subset of that, which are larger size businesses, mission companies. And I just want to encourage, as we walk through and talk about stories here, that you consider looking at larger, mid-size and larger size BAM as influencing church planting, discipleship, and evangelism among the unreached people groups and unreached cities of China. My story was when I was 11, living on the south side of Chicago, mostly living actually in a primarily black neighborhood, which helped me later to play pro basketball in Taiwan. We had many missionaries. I did. I played in, I'd be the only white boy in the court or honky. But I was called to missions over a time period when I was 11 years old in Vacation Bible School. And for the next 7 years, I asked myself what type of missionary. I passed my FAA private license test when I was 15. Said, well, maybe I should be a doctor. And when I was 19 at university, the Lord switched that question from what type of missionary to whom is he calling me? And that was to assist the Chinese Christians in communicating the gospel to those who had not heard within mainland China. And so now for the last approximately almost 40 years, been focused on assisting that effort. From that effort of being called for missions and now to the Chinese people, I learned to love business. And people just ask, so just real quickly, we have helped over $100 million of investment in China. We've owned partial equity, typically 30%, and now 27 businesses, 24 of those in China and 3 in the Islamic countries. And we'll talk about some of the lessons that we've learned from those operations. I also want to take I think it's important to acknowledge who's gone before. This last year, we've lost 2 key leaders in businesses missions. For those of you that knew Ken Kroll, what a man of God and a pioneer in Israel with Galtronics, and also with Grape City, Paul Broman. Paul died this last November, and hopefully I follow faintly in their footsteps. Also, my dad, who was a great support of our company. I'm just working on 2 years now of my dad in heaven, graduation there, and so miss him dearly. Also, when thinking of BAM, Sharon Swar, who had done the Center for Entrepreneurship and Economic Development, John Porterfield and I were sitting around in Colorado Springs in '99, and sort of that BAM acronym came about, Business as Missions. And as you look around the room here, you'll say, well, how come everybody's somewhat new to BAM? It's because BAM really is a new concept, migration and expansion from tent making, being individual contributors and multinationals, to really having companies be focused on assisting the Great Commission being fulfilled through church planning, discipleship, and evangelism. So what are the lessons that we've learned in our starting out over 40 companies, all technology companies? So typically 50 to 500 employees. 1/3 are typically engineers, 1/3 to 1/4. And what lessons? Well, the first lesson we've learned is what business you choose is as important as almost anything else. If you want to do church planning, you can almost, and we're talking now about the Islamic worlds, the unreached cities of China, the ethno-linguistic worlds of India. And I've looked at hundreds of business plans. Typically, our company will look at 15 potential new investments a year and pick hopefully 2 of them a year. And the type of business you do highly influences whether or not you will be successful if your goal is church planning. And a lot of that is the incarnational presence and the bandwidth you get with your employees, customers, and suppliers. A good differential diagnosis question to find out how integral the business is to your missions is asking, where are people seeing fruit? And if they talk about serendipitous relationships, that's okay, there's place for that. But in mid-sized BAM and larger, where you see the church's Bible study started is with your fellow employees, your customers, or your suppliers. So what business you choose is important. It's not just the people you have. Number two, thank you, sorry, where you go, is you want to focus early on who and where you're called to. Our focus is unreached peoples and cities. If you want to hit the goal of getting to people who are less than 1% Christian in a certain city, as an example. So China has 200 plus cities of 1 million or more people. 100 of those approximately have less than 1% Christian. When we're looking at putting a $1 to $10 million investment, 1 to 2 times a year, we are only considering places where that exists. We're looking at people who don't have a reasonable chance to get above that tipping point. So focus early on to whom and to where. The next we've learned is business needs missions and missions needs business. If you want to accomplish your goals in the 1040, business is an incredibly competitive area. We're working 50, 60 hours a week, and we have a strategy coordinator at locations, people that really help us alongside to strategize how we're going to reach this district within this city, not just our own factory, reaching out. And for missions, you need us, and so it's a very healthy partnership, something that probably in many of the open countries in the world, churches, why do we need business? And business, why do we need churches? All of our non-nationals in our company right now, about 60, we don't necessarily have financial relationships with mission agencies, but all of us have spiritual accountability relationships. And even as an owner of the company, there's a large group. If they say I've got a moral failure, if I forget the Great Commission, even though they haven't put a dime into the company, they can actually remove me from that position. And I need that accountability because of the challenges. If you have weaknesses that you have in your own life, they will be exposed later on. The next, and I'm, again, just encouraging you, is people oftentimes think small, and we've underexploited, underutilized the richness of business. Think about investments that are going to be $1 million or more in capital, that have trademarking, that when you get private angel investors, those people will help eliminate a lot of poor business planning. And so just encourage that. And again, for those of you that may know SMIC or may know some others that have gone very large as BAM companies, going public, it's at this point I'm unaware of a BAM-centric business that's been able to go public and keep that culture for more than a couple years. And so I encourage you, if at that point, okay, take your liquidity and try and start some other things or acquire. Going public, typically, BAM companies have not shown themselves to be resilient in keeping church planning as a priority in publicly owned companies. The next, when we look at some of our failures in business, number one reason we failed was not for poor market studies, but it was because of our technology partners. And pray for and diligently seek great partnerships. Look for number one or number two in the marketplace. They don't have to be Christians. Most of ours are not. But they've got to be people, men and women of peace, the ownership, even if they're publicly traded companies. And look for, again, for specific niches. If you're number one or number two and really across our holdings, when we've done well, we've done this. And piggyback, which means, incubate with inside of another company. Eliminate some of your overhead, but do whatever you do to let the partner fill in key areas that you're just not competent at. And typically we look at 4 areas. There's obviously much more sophisticated modeling we do, but people, markets, technology, and capital. And what I want to do is contribute almost all the people. I want to contribute about 30% of the capital. But on the technology and the marketing, I want to have my technology partner to really give us an initial boost in that to get us to that break-even point and beyond. So people said, well, at what point do you lose control? And for us, sort of the bandwidth is, our experience is if I don't own at least 15% and normally up to 35 or 40% of an operation, if I go beyond those sort of points, either I'm too dependent upon myself. So like we failed, we owned one business 100% of the time. Did an acquisition, tried 4 years, pumped in quite a bit of money, but it was electronics, and we realized we needed that technology partner. When we drop below 15, we lose some of the things such as we always want to nominate. It starts and finishes with the general manager. You've got to control the nomination process for that. Also, typical supermajority votes on budgeting, et cetera, so that you want unanimous board approval. One of our things is that if you pray about this and seek God's favor, now 19 years of partnerships with about 20 plus international companies, we've never had an international partner say, get out. Now, sometimes it takes a lot of bending over backwards and acceding to some of their unusual requests, but overall it's been just a wonderful thing, and no lawsuits either in that area. Okay, the next one is think technology leading and world class, not appropriate technology. I know many people here are going to shudder at that, but if you go to what I talked about, the ethno-linguistic worlds of India, the unreached cities of China, they're wanting state-of-the-art mobile phones, they're wanting 4G in terms of internet speed, and we have just found that staying on that technology curve, if you aim too low, you're really not going to attract people that are open to change as much, and if you're not focusing on the poorest of the poor, which I think requires different modeling, in general, I would say appropriate technology is not appropriate if you're looking at planting churches and being welcome in these countries. By the way, our medical stent factory, when we first did the analysis, North Korea not only offered us a woofie, but in Pyongyang, and complete, at that point, at least contractually, complete control, because they wanted that level of technology within the country. We ended up investing actually in a China location at that point. And of course, you want to exit if your product becomes commoditized. We had 8 factories that did energy efficient lighting in the 90s and early 2000s, and we sort of exited those as a group, and it was the right decision at that point. The next is, and these are industry standards, you can go both commercially, you can go to some of the accounting companies, and look, but do your best practices analysis. Require of your management teams in place to be above average in all these areas. And these are benchmarks, anything from financial benchmarks to departure, keeping the right people. For instance, all my general managers have to be at less than half the departure rate for losing key employees in China, vis-a-vis other areas, other foreign companies in those zones and cities. So benchmarks against those. People ask me, well, does being a Christian really help your financial bottom line? I don't have a clear answer for that. What I can absolutely tell you now, I've been in over 500 factories. I've been a plant general manager of 9 factories. And I will just tell you that absolutely Christian values get you to a higher quality level. And, of course, then we got to pray for God's guidance. But quality is something that Christian values do a fantastic job at. Okay, expect spiritual opposition. Expect your own thorn in the flesh. And learn from your business failures. In 1994, 95, I had my family tragedy, and you come broken. But say, okay, God, how are you going to redeem this? And I just think I encourage you to understand when you're going to these places, Satan's going to do his best to attack it. And as best you can, seek to understand. Seek to make your corrective action reports and changes. But this is the enemy's territory, and we're trying to claim it for the Lord. And so expect that. Your own personal weaknesses will be exploited at that, much more so than other places, and get spiritual accountability, etc. It is better long-term than short-term. When we've seen the effects of effective church planners, disciplers in these places, people that are linguistically, understand the language, Mandarin Chinese, Hindi, Russian, Arabic, etc. Those people do better, so try and get enough long-term committed people, 5 years plus. But also endure in your call. It's okay to have business failures. Our company has had complete business bust. And we're very similar to most private equity guys. We've had a couple home runs, we've had some busts, and we've got a bunch in the middle. But overall, we've grown and survived and funded mostly through internal retained earnings. But so you can exit a business without exiting your call. And so endure, but also know when to say, okay, let me try something different at this point. And the last lesson within really the generous time allowed here is don't ever underestimate the need for incarnational presence. It's what we have found and is if you want to attract people of change who are open to the gospel, your level of business quality is a magnet for those people that are open to change. In China, we've had over 470 million people in the last 30 years go from the countryside to cities. And those people are first-generation urbanites, and they're open to change. And those that want to excel, engineers and others that come to us, they are more open to the gospel, and we do see some good things happening. So don't underestimate the need for incarnational presence. That's actually, if you go back to point one on what type of business, if you're at some points of just software conversion, let's say OS conversion processes for international companies in Europe and the US, you don't get a lot of face time with these people. You need face time. And yet, on the other hand, in your strategic planning, we're just amazed at what's happening with the internet and the new media. What for us was a skunk works about 9 years ago, so we were deep in industrial manufacturing, specialty chemicals, and said, well, let's try and start a media group. And we started 9 years ago a media group, acquired a company, and lo and behold, it's now, Frank, it's by far the largest Christian publishing operation in China. We sell over 1 million books a year, do 40 new titles. We've got a lot of other content. And what's happening on the internet, our delivery of the internet, we've had 3 now, we're in our 4th generation almost in 9 years of what marketing presence is our biggest revenue gainer. And the internet side is, so have a robust internet model. And don't give up until you have a robust internet model. And new social blogs, et cetera. Figure how that works into it. And in fact, that's one of the newer divisions is a video group that we're putting together a lot of videos for whenever we communicate things. So embrace the internet and the new media. And thank you very much, and looking forward to questions.
Thank you so much, Dwight.